Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, Tunisia's Prime Minister pushes back against calls for his resignation, accusing his critics of cashing in on an economic crisis to try and win political points. Also, police in Mozambique are worried that rare cases of violence by Islamic extremists may be on the rise in the Muslim-majority north. And into the internet, without ever going online. In Benin, a lack of kits meant teachers have had to be creative when taking IT classes. One NGO has taken to the waters to help kids in remote communities surf the web. But first, key members of Tunisia's ruling party, Nidaa Tounes, want the Prime Minister to quit. They accuse Youssef Chahed of economic mismanagement, but he said that he has no intention of stepping down and accuses his rivals of turning an economic emergency into a game of political one-upmanship. Clément Bonnereau has the details.
Under fire from his own party, Tunisian Prime Minister Youssef Chahed took to the airwaves to defend his record, rejecting accusations of economic and political mismanagement.
I'm not running away from my responsibilities. I'm running this country. I'm working to ensure the security and stability of Tunisia.
Youssef Chahed says he has no intention of resigning. His statement comes just a day after the president cancelled the so-called Carthage Agreement, a political process that aims to bring stability to Tunisia by bringing together political parties, trade unions and employers to discuss wide-ranging reforms. Chahed has come under mounting criticism from key members of his party, Nidaa, Tounes, notably its leader, the son of President Beji Caid Essebsi. Hafez Caid Essebsi has accused Chahed of failing to revive Tunisia's economy and called for his resignation. Chahed's supporters, however, say the president is trying to maintain his family's grip on power by lining up his son to replace him after the next presidential election in 2019.
Rights activists are calling for Anglophone separatists in Cameroon to lay off targeting schools and educators. Human Rights Watch has demanded the release of a school principal who was kidnapped last week. Our Indira Ayak tells us more.
The abduction of the principal of a secondary school in Boya in the southwest region of Cameroon is still a major cause for concern, as 5 days after her abduction, her whereabouts are still unknown. Ms. Enanga Georgiana Sanga was abducted alongside her colleague in a taxi. Her colleague was later released with machete wounds to parts of his body. Since the start of the Anglophone crisis in October 2016, about 50 people have so far been abducted by the separatists, with thousands of others left homeless and many more displaced around the country. And rights groups have urged the separatists to desist from attacking educational facilities and from jeopardizing the education of children in the English-speaking regions of Cameroon. All of this is happening days after there was an exchange of gunfire in the northwest region of Cameroon, in which at least 27 people were reportedly killed in that part of the country. Meantime, some 7 Anglophone activists have been sentenced to jail terms between 10 and 15 years for spearheading the Anglophone crisis in Cameroon.
Indira Ayak there for us. Now, emergency responders in Cape Town suspect that arson was behind a train fire on Wednesday morning. 1 person died and 4 women were injured in the blaze on the track in the South African city. 2 carriages were destroyed in the fire. The train's drivers told police that she thought she heard something being thrown at the train before the fire forced her to stop between Southfield and Ottery Station. Zimbabwe set the date for presidential and parliamentary elections for July 30th. President Emerson Mnangagwa vowed that they will be free and fair. He took over from longtime leader Robert Mugabe last November, when the 94-year-old stepped down following military intervention. It'll be the country's first elections without Mugabe since independence. The opposition MDC parties called for electoral reforms before the polls, including allowing Zimbabweans abroad to vote. Police in Mozambique are worried that violence by Islamic extremists may be on the rise. 10 people were beheaded in the country's Muslim-majority north over the weekend. Authorities are now looking into possible links to a jihadist group that killed 2 police officers in Mocimboa da Praia last October. Take a look.
This mound of rubble in Mozambique da Praia, in extreme north of Mozambique, was once a mosque. It was demolished by the government after an attack in October, attributed to a group of young men who are believed to have frequented it. Around 30 of them stormed a police post and an army garrison. 2 police officers were killed and as many as 14 attackers struck down in the counter-assault.
Before they were like us, they prayed like us. Then as soon as they started listening to those tapes from Somalia, they began to call themselves Al-Shabaab.
The apparent jihadist assault provoked a backlash among Mozambicans who are still recovering from a long civil war. Authorities said there was no proof of a link to Somalia's Al-Shabaab militants or any other known jihadist group. But it was found that several of the young attackers had regularly visited Tanzania, Sudan or Somalia, where they were allegedly radicalized.
Initially, we tried to warn the authorities, but we couldn't stop them.
Many young people in this poverty-stricken region have been radicalized by Islamist extremists who ban their followers from voting or sending their children to school and encourage them to fight the state. At least 300 people were arrested following the attack and several mosques closed. Roadblocks remain in place in surrounding villages where some of the attackers are believed to be hiding, and villagers say attacks and kidnappings are continuing.
My wife was kidnapped while we were fleeing, and then they shot at me, 2 rounds, which passed close by me.
The authorities are seeking to reassure locals that the threat has diminished and say they have no record of kidnappings. But for the villagers here, a threat remains, at least until all the attackers are behind bars.
Getting into the internet without ever going online. In Benin, a lack of kit means that teachers have had to be creative when teaching IT classes. Many kids living in remote communities never see a computer until they get to secondary school. But an NGO has taken to the waters to try and help pupils surf the web. Our correspondents report.
These primary school students living in the swampy region of southeast Benin are learning about computers and information technology for the first time.
Can anybody give me the definition of the word computing?
It's when you connect to the internet to be able to work online.
Edouard works for a local NGO. For the last 6 months, he's been giving a computer science course in classrooms that are difficult to reach.
I'm here because there's no computer science teacher in the school, but it's in the children's curriculum. I'm here to help them. It's going to allow them to have the skills they need to be able to do their research.
We don't have access to computers because there's no power. We recently got 2 solar streetlights, but that's not even enough to power the classes.
Only 4 of the 69 villages scattered on Lake Nokoué have electricity. The others are solar-powered. To get online, students have to walk 2 hours to reach the nearest town, Soava, to use the cyber cafe there. To help people connect to the web close to home, André Todier launched a cyber boat. Twice a week, his wooden boat brings a 3G connection to remote schools around the lake.
A single canoe for 6,000 students. It's nothing at all, but for us, it's something. Our network doesn't allow all the students to get online. We have to find solutions ourselves, because leaving Soava to go to Calavi or Cotonou to do their research costs money and is a waste of time.
For the students new to the internet, the web offers information on a number of issues free of taboo.
It's the first time I go on internet, and it's great.
Earlier, I asked for an example of a theme that we could search for on the internet. They said the behavior of girls in colleges or sexual harassment in schools.
Just 11% of Benin's population has access to the internet. Digital isolation could be a thing of the past in lakeside villages if the National Action Plan to modernise these remote areas and boost tourism is completed.
Well, before flying out to London on Wednesday ahead of a friendly that's part of final prep for the World Cup in Russia, Nigeria's Super Eagles headed to the presidential villa in Abuja to meet with the president. Muhammadu Buhari hosted a ceremony for the 25-strong squad. The three-time African champions will be in Russia on the 11th of June and have been drawn in Group D with Argentina, Croatia and Iceland. Their first game is against Croatia on the 16th, and we wish them the very best of luck. Well, that's it for Eye on Africa for now. Thanks for joining us. Do so again. Take care.
France 24 es rigurosidad, precisión y responsabilidad. Somos una familia comprometida con el periodismo y la verdad.
C'est une des seules chaînes d'infos où on nous laisse jouer en plateau avec des Legos, avec des robots, avec tout un tas d'objets.
We take a return ticket to revisit some of the key people and places of the last 50 years of world television news.
على فرانس 24 يمكننا أن نحاور أصحاب القرار من العالم في كل الميادين ولدينا المساحة لكشف ثنايا مسيرتهم.
Aquí en France 24 tenemos a varias personas de distintos países, algo que es un reflejo de cómo es Latinoamérica, con culturas muy distintas. Y allí es muy bonito encontrar que en el deporte todos tenemos algo en común.
Les femmes, elles sont souvent victimes de l'actualité internationale, mais ce sont aussi des actrices majeures de la géopolitique. Et d'ailleurs, on en parle dans France 24.